Okay, let's just bring out the producer, Scott Butnick, please. We have a tradition of giving the golden thumb to the visiting filmmakers. It's a cast of Roger's thumb, and we'd like to present it to you for The Hangover.
Thank you.
And I'm going to bring out the rest of, we're going to put you right in the middle here. I'm going to sit here. And we have Matt Zollerseitz, and Nell Minow, and Nate Cohen is joining us again too. You can sit on that side.
I forgot how dirty that movie was. I'm sorry. I'm like, this is like such a nice crowd, and that movie is so dirty. It like couldn't even make half those jokes today.
So I'd like to make this, to start, a bit of a factual inquiry. Tell me about the tooth. How did you guys do that?
It's very simple. Ed Helms had a prosthetic tooth. So he just had to remove his prosthetic for the movie.
But there's a hole there. Is that digital?
No. He had a fake tooth. He took it out for the movie. Like in real life, he had a fake tooth.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We got lucky.
So was it written in the script? And he's like, as it happens, I have a fake tooth?
Yeah, I think that's what happened.
So I remember when we saw this movie the first time, and it was funny, we were laughing. Roger, I think, gave the movie 3.5 stars, but he still said, where did the chicken come from? Can you tell us that?
I don't have a fucking clue.
I think the chicken was a homage to Werner Herzog's Dancing Chicken in Strossack.
All right.
Some questions are left unanswered.
My question is, there are so many people who had breakthrough performances in that film. Zach Galifianakis, Bradley Cooper, Ken Jeong. Who did the casting? And tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, it was interesting because I remember Warner Brothers was so unbelievably supportive, but when Todd said he wants to go with this group of guys, it wasn't like the movie star grouping. And like most comedies those days always had movie stars. And if you remember, like those three guys, Bradley Cooper had been on a TV show Alias and was like in a smaller part in Wedding Crashers. Ed Helms was on The Office. No one knew Zach Galifianakis. We saw him doing stand-up in LA. No one knew Mr. Chow. So definitely the studio was like, really, these were the guys? And I'll be honest with you, like a lot of people, and this was like the genius of Todd Phillips, who was my partner, the director of the film.
And that was him in the elevator, right?
That was him in the elevator with a mustache going down on some woman. Yeah, he just like, he believed in it. I mean, when you know him, like the film's voice is so him and the casting is so him. But a lot of people around town really thought we messed up with the casting. And by the way, there's a lot of people, a lot of actors you know that passed on these roles to end up where we ended up, right? Some of the biggest names saw this and passed on it, et cetera, but these were the 4 that we ended up with. And yeah, it was pretty brilliant. It was amazing because in Hangover 1, no one knew them. So we could go anywhere in Vegas, we could go to the casino, we could gamble, and no one recognized them. But then we came back on Hangover 3, like 5 or 6 years later, and we could never even walk through the casino because they were so big at that point.
So we saw the screening, and which month? It was shortly before we went to the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah, summer.
And at Cannes, Bradley Cooper was standing there, and no one knew who he was. And so I went up to him and I said, no one knows who you are, but once they see Hangover, they're gonna know.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of standing around shyly, but I turned on the TV that afternoon, he was on French television speaking perfect French.
Wow.
Being interviewed in French.
I want to know all about the tiger.
Man, we had, well, number one, we had some great animal trainers, and we had a really well-trained tiger and a lot of safety around the real tiger. So there's three things. There's a stuffed tiger, an animatronic tiger, and the real tiger, right? And so in various places, we used each one of them, and the tiger was great. The animal trainers were great. There was a lot of safety. In the bathroom, the tiger's leg is actually chained to the ground. So when Zach was really that close to the tiger, as was Ed, but the tiger couldn't move.
How did you get Mike Tyson?
We wrote the part for Mike Tyson, and I think he was in rehab in Malibu. Yeah, we drove him. He said yes real quick, and we drove him for, I think he was just excited to get out of rehab.
Tell me,
I mean, he's told the story before, so I'm not telling you a story that's not out there.
tell me about just the filming of it. I mean, it seems like madness. That's what it comes across. I mean, I'm sure it was very controlled in certain ways, but these guys are heavy-duty, inventive, improvisational kinds of actors.
I mean, you know what's funny? It's like I was watching the film and forgetting stuff. And like when I was hearing where you guys were laughing and stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I remember that was a big, like, it was weird watching it. I haven't seen it in so long, and I haven't seen it with a crowd in a decade or 15 years or whatever it's been. But also, like, not only the main guys, but like some of the biggest stand-ups that are, like Eddie in The Wedding Chapel is Brian Callen, who's on Joe Rogan all the time. Rob Riggle, incredible comedian, is the cop. Cleo King, another comedian, is the female cop. Matt Walsh, an actor we used in almost all of our movies, is the doctor in the hospital. And so it isn't just our guys ad-libbing and making up lines and coming up with great stuff. It's everybody, right? And it's something that Roger said in his review. He's like, literally every line's funny. And like, not everyone is laughing at every line, but there's someone in this room that's laughing at literally every line, right? And it was cool to remember that today. But of course, Zach, like when the first day of shooting, the first scene we shot where you don't know how the chemistry is going to be, et cetera, was the Blood Brothers speech on the roof in Caesar's Palace. That was day one of shooting. And what Zach said in that speech might have been half the script and half shit he just made up. And like, once you're like, wow, that was day one. Like, how do you beat that, right? Like, that was unbelievable. And yeah, you're sitting at the monitor and you like are almost ruining takes because you're laughing so hard and making so much noise. But you know, it's controlled chaos. I mean, we have a job to do, we're doing it, but like we're laughing a lot and playing a lot within it. But they're always giving you the script. And then once Todd feels like he has what's on the page, then it's just play for the rest of the time.
Oh yeah, how many days was the shoot?
Man, I don't remember. My guess is probably around 45. We did most of it in Vegas. I would say maybe the last 3 weeks were in LA. The hotel suite is actually on a Warner Brothers soundstage in LA because they wouldn't let us bring a tiger into Caesar's Palace. So the suite is a soundstage in LA, and the stuff around the wedding, that was all in Pasadena, but everything else was Vegas.
What was the deal with Caesar Palace? Were they happy to do this?
Oh wow, that's a cool story. So every hotel in Vegas passed on the movie, because obviously, right? Like, who wants like that type of debauchery like happening in the hotel and their rooms getting damaged like that, and tigers and chickens and all types of shit in your hotel? And so I remember we first went to the Wynn in the Encore, or Wynn, I don't think Encore was built at that point. Steve Wynn said hell no. Then we went to the Venetian and Sheldon Adelstein said hell no. Then we went to the Palms, they said hell no. Then we went to the MGM Group and every one of their properties, they said hell no. And then an incredible woman named Debbie Munch at Caesar's Palace, and the president of Caesar's, Gary Selesner, who just passed. We just lost Gary. Both of them are like, we're all in, like, let's go. And they were the best partners ever. And like, the one thing they told us at the beginning is like, we can like do anything for you unless it interrupts our casino operations, right? That's the one area. But of course, we needed to interrupt their casino operations. We're like, so I would call like, Debbie, I know you said you can't interrupt your casino operations, but we want Zach to be asleep in a craps table, and we just need to take a picture of it for the end credits. And she's like, okay, if you do it at 2 a.m, you can do it over here. And so we would do that. But like, they always had a solution for us. There was never a no. There was not one no out of Caesar's Palace the entire thing, and that was unbelievable. Hey, we want Zach swimming in the fountain. We need to do the whole, we need to spend 5 hours doing the check-in, you know, did Caesar really live here, all that stuff. And like, that's taking their check-in lobby for 5 hours, right? So we had to shoot that from like midnight till 5 a.m, but we had their entire lobby from midnight till 5 a.m, so they were unbelievable partners.
Did you ever find out why they said yes and everybody else said no?
I just think, if I remember correctly, it was like when the recession hit. I think it was like 2008, and Vegas just got killed. And I think everyone, in terms of their comms folks, was just playing it very, very safe. And they're like, God, these guys destroy an entire hotel room. We don't want people coming to our hotel and doing that, et cetera. And then I think Caesar saw it as an opportunity. I think it was just a different way of communications folks, like, seeing the opportunity. And I'll tell you what, every time I go to Vegas for the last 15 years, I stay at Caesar's Palace because they are so grateful for, in the middle of a recession, so they were able to raise the price. They made something called the Hangover Suite, even though the suite wasn't there. They made like 20 of them, and they sell them for $4,000 a night. And they're not even, I mean, they're nice, but they're not like that sweet. And they were able to build the Nobu restaurant. They were able to build a Nobu tower. They built the Omnia nightclub. They built Mr. Chow Chinese. Like, it's like the hotel that the Hangover built. And Gary, the president of the hotel, who was just like, he was the mastermind of the whole thing, was just like thankful to the very end. Like, incredible man.
So you always stay at Caesar's?
Only.
Can you rank the three main actors in terms of their tendency to break up during a take?
Oh man, I mean, everyone. There's not like the guys were always cracking Bradley up. All of them. I mean, Mr. Chow was so over the top. Like, he was hilarious. He killed us in the audition. Like, he came into our office and started screaming like that, and like you know, we've seen 30 different people come in and play the bad guy role, and this guy is like, toodaloo, motherfucker! Like, and you're like, what's going on here?
Ken Jeong, oh, sorry.
I want to make sure everybody knows he's actually a medical doctor.
Yeah, he's a real doctor.
Yeah.
And also, I can speak for all four of them. 4 of the greatest human beings you've ever met. 0 ego. No ego for the 5, including Doug, right? Just great guys. I mean, Zach Galifianakis grew up on a farm in North Carolina. Great father, great husband, like, just wonderful, nice. Everyone that stops him on the street, he talks to him. Just like a wonderful guy. They're really, really great.
Ken Jeong has spoken many times about how he just flat out said he owes his career to this movie. But he was really an unknown quantity before this movie was made. What was it about him that made him the guy?
Yeah, I think just how daring he was. Like, I think you see it in the performance. Like, it was not scripted for him to be naked in the trunk. It was scripted for him to be in the trunk wearing pants. And I remember, this is a great memory. He tells this story too. We're at the apartment complex shooting Jade, the stripper that helps her escort, that scene. And Ken Jeong had just flown in from LA, and we're just going to shoot the Mr. Chow scenes the next day. And he comes up and whispers in my ear. He goes, "Hey, Budnick." He goes, "Do you think it'd be funny if I did the whole scene naked?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's talk to Todd." So we go up to Todd. Todd's on a break, and Todd's like, "That's amazing." Like, yes. So like then me, the producer, I got to call Warner Brothers and say like, he's going to do this naked, and now we're in a whole legal thing with his team around a nudity release and all of these things. So I remember Ken tells this story in the media all the time. He's like, then Budnick came to my hotel room with a nudity release at midnight, and I had him sign the nudity release, and the next day, this is a funny story. So because he wasn't supposed to be naked, we didn't clear with the authorities there was going to be a naked person jumping out of a car in the middle of Vegas. So we're in a dirt lot outside like Mandalay Bay, if you know where that is. Mandalay Bay, Luxor, Excalibur, Hard Rock, MGM. Like all windows of those hotels are looking down on where we're shooting this. And it's also like 110 degrees. It's the hottest day. It's so hot. And everyone's sweating, and Ken is sweaty, and he's not wearing anything, and he's dripping sweat. And he jumps out of the trunk with his legs around Bradley's face and his junk smashed on Bradley's face. And it's sweaty, and we have to do it 20 times. And then all of a sudden, the cops come. And they're like, "What are you guys doing?" And they're like, "We have a permit for it." They're like, "No, you don't have a permit for it. You have no nudity permits." And people are complaining in all the hotels that there's this Asian guy jumping out of the trunk naked. And yeah, that happened.
That brings me to what I wanted to ask you, which is when you think about the term producer, you don't normally think about negotiating with the police about a naked man running around. What are some of the other things that as a producer that you had to do? What are some of the problems you had to solve to get this movie made?
Well, I'll tell you this. It's like my job as a producer at that point was different than other producers because I ran Todd Phillips' production company. So my only job on that movie was to make sure the director had everything he needed to execute his vision. And like, the DNA of that movie is Todd Phillips through and through. The writing, the casting, the editing, the music selection, everything is him. Like that is his bullseye, right? And he crushed it. So it was my job to make sure just everything had to be, on Hangover 3, we had a crazy thing where Mr. Chow jumps off the roof or a balcony on Caesar's Palace, and then releases a parachute, and he kind of goes over the Bellagio fountains and then lands in Las Vegas Boulevard. And like, that was one of the most amazing undertakings because Todd's like, "I need you to make this happen." And I'm like, "Okay." So then you're negotiating with the city of Las Vegas, and you're in meetings with like 40 people around a table, the traffic people, the police people, right? The fire people, talking about like having to close down Las Vegas Boulevard 3 nights in a row for parachutes to land. And that was like an enormous undertaking, right? Closing down the strip, right? Stopping traffic for 20 minutes at a time, et cetera. And so, yeah, it was just, you know.
How do you persuade them to let you do that?
You pay them a lot of money.
I have a question.
And you
about
become a great partner. Like you respect them, they respect. It's just, relationships.
I have a question about the baby. Were those real babies used in the movie?
Yeah, I think there was like 8 babies. So you can only work a baby, I don't even know the rules are, but like 1 or 2 hours a day. So there were multiple Carloses. In fact, I just got a picture of like the 19-year-old Carlos today. One of them. There's like 8 different Carloses that are now 19 years old, or however long it was.
And who's there on set when you're working with babies? How does
The rules
work?
are crazy, right? The rules are crazy. I think you have child advocates. Like, there's multiple people that have to be on a set when a baby's there, as well as animals, right? Tigers. Like, there's a lot of safety precautions that you take, and animal cruelty folks to make sure that you're doing everything humanely, etc. So yeah.
I bet you didn't have an intimacy coordinator.
No.
Was Zach already a dad when he shot this movie?
It's a great question. I don't think Zach was a dad yet when we shot it. I don't think so.
What are your memories of his interactions with that baby on and off the camera?
Well, I mean, clearly on camera he masturbated a baby.
And you had no intimacy coordinator.
Yeah. Off camera, he's incredible, right? Like that like kind of persona that he has in this movie. He's just like, and he's an unbelievable dad. He's unbelievable with children. He's unbelievable with people. He's just like a great, great guy. So of course, off camera, he's unbelievably loving to the child and interactive with the parents. I mean, all the children's parents are there the entire time, and you have folks that work there that are working with the child. So he's interacting with them the entire time.
What are you working on now, and where did you go after Hangover movies?
Yeah, so I spent about 15 years with Todd Phillips, from early movies, Road Trip and Old School, to what came after Hangover? After Hangover came Due Date with Robert Downey Jr. and Zach Galifianakis. Then came a movie that the youngest people in these theaters are gonna know, Project X, which was like a high school party movie. It's like the Animal House of today. And then came Hangover 2 and 3. Then came War Dogs, which was Jonah Hill and Miles Teller. And then I left the business and spent 5 years working with kids in the juvenile justice system and foster care system, and left the business entirely. And then 5 years after that, realized that like my biggest tool in my toolbox was being able to like tell stories that, you know, you said empathy machine earlier, right? That drain empathy. So I started a company called One Community, which is film and television for social impact. First movie was Just Mercy with Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx. And our last movie is actually premiering in New York on Wednesday and coming out on Netflix on Mother's Day weekend, May 9th. It's called Nonas, and it's Vince Vaughn and a bunch of Italian grandmothers. And it's one of my favorite things that I've ever worked on.
The trailer is so great. You have to all watch the trailer on YouTube. It is so adorable. I can't wait to... Susan Sarandon?
Yeah, so nonas, right, what Italians call grandmothers, right? So if you love your mother and you love your grandmother, or you have any female figure in your life that means a lot to you, you will laugh, you will cry, you will be overjoyed. It's about food, it's about family, it's about love. It's such a beautiful, funny. Vince Vaughn is great in it. All the grandmothers are great in it. It's Susan Sarandon, it's Brenda Vaccaro, it's Lorraine Bracco, and it's Talia Shire. Remember her from Rocky and The Godfather? So, and you had her brother's movie, Coppola's movie, here this weekend.
The 5 years that you took away from the business, what's the personal connection that made you decide to focus on that particular aspect?
We're gonna get serious for a second. When I was doing Old School, a friend of mine invited me down to a juvenile hall in Los Angeles to meet some kids that were incarcerated. And I went in there and on a Saturday morning and kind of sat at a table in this juvenile prison. It was kind of intimidating at first. And these kids walked in, 15, 16, 17 years old, and sat down at the table. And there was a kid next to me, little tiny 15-year-old kid, had a little mohawk on his hair. And I said, how was your week? And he said, it was a really bad week. I just got sentenced to 300 years to life in prison. And that's a 15-year-old telling you that. And so in my mind, I'm like, what the hell did he do, right? So I said, what happened? He said, I stood next to my friend who shot the victim in the butt. The victim was in and out of the hospital in a day. And for standing next to the guy with the gun, I was called an aider and abetter, and I was given 300 years to life in prison. And I just realized, well, number one, I did some dumb shit when I was young. Not that, but I did some dumb shit. And like, I just don't believe that your worst act as a young person should define you for the rest of your life. Like, I believe that people can change, and I really believe that young people can change. And so I told those kids on that day, I'm like, if you guys are willing to work and change and grow and become good people, better people, like, I'm willing to come in here and start teaching that class every weekend. And so that was February 8th, 2004, and I'm still there every Saturday today in 2025. And it's my favorite 3 hours of the week. But I just realized, like, I mean, I think most of us, if that was our child in this room, they'd be out on bail, right? If your child was arrested, they're not going to spend 3 years fighting their case sitting in a juvenile hall in a jail cell, right? They'll probably be out on bail sleeping in their bed. And they'd probably have the best lawyer in town. And for not touching a gun, they're not going to prison for 300 years to life. But this kid who came from the foster care system and didn't even have parents to love him was going to prison for 300 years to life. And that just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
What did he say?
Private prisons need to make money, that is right, and they pay politicians a lot to keep that system going. What kinds of programs do you think have made the biggest difference in these kids' lives?
You know, the one thing that I hear all the time is like, anyone that changes their life and does amazing things, they always credit someone that cared, right? There was an adult in their life that was just there through thick and thin, that believed in them and that cared about them and was there. And it could be a teacher, it could be a coach, it could be a pastor, it could be a movie producer, like, it could be anything. So like, it's almost always a person, just one person that cares. I mean, it's kind of simple, right? But then you're unwinding lots of trauma, right? And you don't want them to get out and go back to the same environment. So housing's important, right? With supported services. Therapy is important. Mentorship is important. College, jobs, careers are important. Like David, who had 300 years to life, we were able to pass a bill in California that got any kid who was sentenced to die in prison under the age of 18 a chance to go to the parole board at 25 years. And we passed this bill, and David's 300-year-to-life sentence was reduced down to 25 years to life. And then he ended up getting a college degree. He ended up mentoring all types of kids. His case got on the radar of the governor, Jerry Brown, and Jerry Brown commuted his sentence. And then he came home and worked with us and is raising 2 twin girls. And again, it was just people in his life that cared about him that did it.
That's an incredible story. Have you ever thought that you might tell that story on film?
Yeah, I mean, I think Just Mercy told a similar story. We made this movie with Ben Lear that you had here, I think, called They Call Us Monsters. It was a doc that was in that same juvenile hall. But I think there's more stories to be told. Yeah. Just got to figure out how to do it.
Why don't we go to the audience for some questions? Do we have microphones in the audience?
Or just talk loud.
It really doesn't work without the microphones. We have microphones? Yeah, they're delivering them right now.
Yeah.
If you have the microphone, just start talking, please.
Hi. Hello.
Hey.
I'm over in the back.
I see you.
Hello. I'm an editor. I love talking to comedians about the edit room because I feel like it's part of the process that sort of gets glazed over in the public eye. We don't talk about post-production a whole lot in terms of filmmaking. So my question has to do with improvisation. I think it's a really strong tool in comedy, but can be sort of a double-edged sword in the edit room because you might have an improvisational moment that is amazing, but requires you to recut an entire scene to support it. So I'm curious, what are those moments that made it into the movie, and are there any moments you remember that had to die in the edit room because it didn't work in the context of the film?
Yeah, I think Todd was always, like, if something really, really worked when we shot it and when he reviewed it, I think he would always try to figure out how to cut around to make it work and to get those laughs. I can't remember in this moment anything that didn't make it. But like, again, I have so much respect for Todd Phillips in terms of like how active he is in the edit. He has used like maybe three editors on all of his films, on like 15 films. So he's very loyal when he's working with somebody. He was very loyal to me. Deborah Neal Fisher, I think, was the editor on Hangover, if I'm right. And then recently on the Joker movies and a couple others, Jeff Groth has been the editor. And Todd loves being in post, right? He loves being in the edit room. And his music team has been like the same music team the entire time. He's just like, it's a very well-oiled machine in the edit.
Can you talk a little more about just the process of editing this? Because as I was watching this, I hadn't seen it in years. The editing really knocked me out. I mean, it's an absolute machine in terms of its velocity. Like, it never lets up. It doesn't feel rushed, but you're always moving relentlessly forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think the things that didn't make it are things that slow it down at all, because like that propulsion of it is just like boom, 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 boom. Like getting to the next thing, finding a clue, getting it right. And so I think anything that was frivolous to that went away. Yeah.
Not a lot of connective tissue.
Yeah.
Like they even, at one point, they even fast forward
Yeah.
to get to Vegas.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes you feel like as soon as like you realize, oh God, Doug's on the roof, you don't need to see the car drive back and park at Caesar's Palace and then take the elevator. Like, no. Oh God, Doug's on the roof. Boom, cut to them coming to the roof, right? Like, people want it to keep moving, right? That's it. Or you're looking at the watch and you're like, what's going on? Like, we know Doug's on the roof. Like, stop with the bullshit.
Microphone,
I have another one over here as well.
okay.
Hi, I was wondering, when I first watched it, it seemed like it was Ferris Bueller on acid, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So how did you have all the characters be that playful and that coming onto the screen for the audience to really feel like that could happen?
I mean, I'm a broken record director, right? Like, when you have a director that writes it in that way, casts it in that way, and then creates the environment on set where everyone feels like they have the ability to play. And the actors all know the director has a very, very strong vision, and he is absolutely in control of everything that's going on, and we trust him completely, and we've given him what's on the page, and now we're gonna go a little crazy. And I think that was the vibe the entire time. There wasn't one day on this movie that was like an insanely stressful day. We were unbelievably prepared. We were really good in pre-production. So like it was, and also like back to the post-production question too, I forgot to say this. Todd was always like a huge fan of test screenings. Like he really believed in a comedy. You want to put it up as many times in front of audiences and like literally let you guys tell us what works and what doesn't work. Like if we go a minute of that movie and there's no laughs, we have a problem, right? So we know we got to tighten up that minute. If we know there's a big sequence that doesn't work, like I remember even editing the stun gun, right? The in your face, right? That, and just like the more he tightened it, the funnier it got in terms of just editing and cutting, and we learned that from test screening. So the more we tested things, the more I remember in Old School, we learned in the first test screening that like there was a part of the movie that the audience turned on Will Ferrell's character because Will Ferrell, like it was just some mean-spirited stuff, right? And he was like putting the kids in danger. So we had to like cut all that out and do reshoots and kind of format the entire third act of Old School. And we learned that all from a test screening, went out and did 3 or 4 days of additional shooting, and then retested it after we cut the new stuff in, and they went crazy for it. So it's like the learning from those test screenings and then continuing to hone it, I think is the process.
We have a question in the balcony.
Balcony, probably center.
Hi, Scott. Thanks
Hey,
for
buddy.
being here. Thanks for your time.
Okay?
I was 13 or 14 when this movie came out, so I was not able to see it in theaters, unfortunately. But my friends and I, of course, still watched it many times growing up. So tonight was the first time I got to watch it in a theater. So thank you.
What was that like to see it for the first time in a theater?
It's very good to have such a fun movie be in a big place with so many people. I think that's very important. Chaz mentioned before the movie started that this trilogy made $1.4 billion worldwide during its entire run, and I think that's really impressive for any movie-going era. Do you think that comedy movies still have a future of having such a strong theatrical run, even though that it seems it doesn't happen anymore like they did 10, 15 years ago when these movies came out?
I actually, funny enough, I kind of feel like the R-rated comedy is coming back. And I think we went through, I won't get into politics, but I think we just went through, the phase where we all got a bit sensitive, and you can't say this and you can't say that. And I mean, there's some things in this movie I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe, paging Dr. F word. Right? I'm like, oh wow, that couldn't have been said the last decade. But I also feel like there's a lot of people that are just like, it's a comedy. We can push the envelope a little bit. And I think it's coming back. And I think there will be some shots theatrically as well. I really believe that not just big event movies and Mission Impossibles and Top Guns, but also horror and comedy, I think are going to be coming back really strong theatrically. So that's my prediction.
You know, I was actually, as the movie was starting, I was wondering how that stuff was going to play.
Yeah.
There were some things, but then I guess it's all contextual because these are anti-heroes. They're a mess. They're not, they're about as far from role models as you can get. So it's yes, that's bad that they said that, but is it worse than leaving a baby in a car unattended?
Yeah, exactly.
And taking the field trip money and lying to the girlfriend, and I think it's in context.
They're pretty all around not role models in this.
Yeah.
So I have to tell you, Nate and I, when we're curating the program, we went back and forth. Do we show, is this an Ebertfest movie or not? Will our crowd go with it or not? Over the years, we've had foreign films, we've had everything usually, and we talk a lot about empathy and compassion and kindness and things like that. But we also like to have fun, we like to laugh, and we thought about it and we said, we can have the movie, because you're coming, but it has to be the very last movie on Saturday night.
By the way, clearly I never met Roger, but reading everything about him and reading what he wrote about this movie, if Roger was sitting at the table with you and Nate, he would absolutely be voting yes, right? 100%. So there's the answer.
He would vote yes, and we talked about that too, yes.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, I remember reading a lot of stuff back in the day about Roger kind of going off on the woke thing and the political correctness, etc. So he was a little daring even back in the day before woke and political correctness even became a thing.
He also spent a lot of time with Russ Meyer.
Yeah, that's true.
And yet, let me tell you, he was really one of the most compassionate, empathetic people around.
By the way, you can be compassionate. By the way, you can be compassionate and empathetic
he was also
and have a fucked up
open-minded.
sense of humor at the same time.
He was also open-minded about things. It wasn't just a one track. He wasn't a closed-minded person. So
Yeah, I love that.
And this movie would not have worked nearly as well if it didn't have the connection, the friendship, the loyalty, the support that these people gave each other, even when they were getting mad at each other, and they all had character arcs, and we were all relieved and happy when Ed Holmes broke up with his girlfriend, and and Bradley Cooper realized that being a family guy was okay.
And
Yeah,
Mike
and-
Tyson got his tiger back.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson got his tiger.
And by the way, the whole movie ends in a wedding, right? A successful wedding.
That's right.
Yeah.
But the brilliance of this movie is that we don't know what happened during the night. It starts
That is
when it's over,
Until the credits.
until the credits, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Sorry
then-
about the shot in the elevator. That was not a real penis. No, that was not a real penis. I found that woman in downtown Vegas. She was chain smoking, playing slots. And I'm like, I got something for you. Do you want to make a quick $1,000 quicker than those slot machines to do just a little funny joke? And she's like, I love it. Let's go.
Well, I think on that note, we're going to say thank you, Scott Budnick. Thank you. Stand up. Thank you so much for coming and bringing the Hangover. And thank you for all the work that you do helping young people too. Oh, and this is
goodbye.
this is goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us again. And we will have a great year, and we will see you next April.